On the western edge of Pineharbor, a quiet town surrounded by pine forests and fog, there sits an old Victorian home known locally as Ledger House. For nearly a century, the house had a strange reputation. Papers inside moved on their own, lights flickered without electricity, and belongings arranged themselves into patterns no one understood. But the real mystery wasn't the house. It was what was found inside. A massive handwritten ledger containing every financial transaction in town for 117 years, including some that hadn't happened yet. The Ledger House didn't earn its name because of its appearance. It earned it because the ledger inside seemed to record reality before reality happened. And the last entries in the book? They predicted a sum of money, nearly $10 million, owed to someone who never existed. The house had been abandoned since 1974. No one wanted it. Not because it was haunted, Pineharbor was a practical town, but because every buyer reported the same things. Doors opening by themselves, pens moving across tables, papers rearranging while people slept, and the unmistakable rustle of turning pages from the attic. Some said the house was alive. Others said it was simply settling. But no one could deny the patterns. Documents always stacked themselves in numerical order. Receipts reorganized by date and weather. Letters sorted themselves by income bracket of the sender. Everything in the house behaved like it was keeping financial records, and it all centered around the attic. In 2001, a historical society purchased the property. Their goal? Preserve Pineharbor's heritage. Their task? Clean the house enough for public tours. On the first day, 2 volunteers went up to the attic. There, under a tarp stiff with age, they found a long wooden desk, and on it, a single massive book, nearly 2 feet thick, bound in cracked leather. Pages yellowed but intact. On the cover, in faded ink, Pineharbor accounts, full record. 1884. Inside were handwritten entries, thousands of them, meticulously detailing daily financial activity in town. Wages paid, groceries bought, loans taken, debts owed, social club dues, church donations, taxes, small purchases down to the penny. It was exhaustive. Too exhaustive. The ledger recorded everything, including private donations no one ever knew about, including debts written off quietly, including purchases made with cash that left no trail. Things only the buyers knew, but the ledger recorded anyway. The first major shock came when volunteers cross-referenced the ledger with public records. The ledger was always correct. Every popcorn bag sold at the corner theater in 1922. Every train ticket purchased between 1901 and 1937. Every unpaid bill from 1954. The ledger's accuracy was impossible. Even stranger, some entries were dated weeks before the events actually happened, like purchases written before the customer made them, donations recorded days before the donor even decided to give, loans listed before they were approved. It was as if the ledger anticipated financial events, or created them. They eventually identified the handwriting, or most of it. It belonged to Edgar Walden, Pineharbor's first town clerk who served from 1884 to 1911. Edgar was quiet, meticulous, and famously reclusive. He lived in Ledger House alone. Neighbors said he kept strange hours, writing all night, sleeping all day. When Edgar died in 1911, the ledger didn't stop. The handwriting changed gradually, as if someone else took over, but no successor was ever recorded. No relative, no clerk, no tenant. Yet the entries continued in fresh ink for decades. Whoever continued writing never left a name. The deeper the historical society looked, the stranger it became. Entries after 1974, the year Ledger House became empty, were written in a handwriting nobody recognized. Even worse, the ledger included transactions from the future. At first, they thought the dates were mistakes, but when they checked against reality, they matched. A donation pledged to a local museum. That hadn't been announced yet. A grant for the school board. Approved 6 months later. A business closure, recorded a year before it happened. The ledger wasn't keeping history. It was tracking financial destiny. The last readable page was dated October 14th, 2031, which was 30 years in the future. After the discovery of the 2031 entry, strange activity intensified in Ledger House. Paper stacks reshuffled themselves into new categories. Dates aligned into long, neat columns. Old receipts slid across tables to form patterns. Desks moved an inch at a time toward the attic stairwell. It was as if the house itself was preparing. The Historical Society eventually locked the attic and sealed the ledger inside a climate-controlled case. For months afterward, people reported the same sound coming from the attic at exactly midnight, the faint scratch of a pen writing on paper. There are several theories about the ledger. Theory 1. Edgar kept the first ledger, but the house kept the rest. Ledger House might be more than a building. It might be a recorder, a keeper of financial cause and effect. Theory 2. The ledger shapes the town's financial future. Whatever appears in the ledger becomes true. If the ledger predicts a donation, it happens. If it predicts a debt, it comes due. Theory 3. The final entry is a reset. $9.7 million 2031. Paid to Edgar Walden. A settlement, a return, a closed account. No one knows what happens when the ledger settles its final balance. But early in 2023, a volunteer checking the attic heard something on the other side of the locked door, a soft, steady sound, the unmistakable rhythm of a pen writing. When they unlocked the door, the attic was empty. The ledger was still sealed, but a new page had been added inside the glass case. The ink was still wet, and below the 2031 entry was a final line: balance pending, awaiting keeper.